And now, please pray with me. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. The village of Gennesaret lies on the northwestern shore of the Sea of Galilee. And as you drive along the road that's still there to this day, drive south towards Tiberias and look out the window to your left, you'll see one farm field after another stretching all the way to the shore. 2,000 years ago, that same scene would have looked pretty much the same. Those fields that have been there now were there 2,000 years ago. And if you close your eyes when you're there, you can almost see Jesus by the shore with the crowds all around him. Each of them pressing up in order to get a healing, whether it be in body, mind, or soul. Each of you, in some way, shape, or form, are there looking for healing. Healing for someone you love and you care about. Healing for yourself. And as the crowd is there, you can almost see the disciples trying to control it in some way, shape, or form. And then, through the crowd, a group of well-dressed men appear. You overhear one of the disciples saying, "Oh, those are the Pharisees from Jerusalem." And they come up to Jesus and they confront him and they ask him, "Why is it that your disciples do not wash their hands before they eat? Why do you not respect the traditions of the elders?" Now, before I go any further, there's one point I want to make very clear. One of the issues that comes up sometimes in Christian thinking is Jesus' relationship to the Mosaic Law. And in the past, there have been those saying that Jesus dismisses the Mosaic Law and the Mosaic Law is somehow inferior or bad. And this has led to a great deal of anti-Semitism over the years. So, I want to make it very clear that in this particular dispute about the washing of hands before a meal, what was in question was the fact that in the book of Leviticus, it says that a priest should wash their hands before they go before to serve at the temple. And the Pharisees were a reforming sect that were in opposition to those who looked after the temple. And so the Pharisees, who believed in their version of a priesthood of all believers, they wanted to extend this notion of a spiritual priesthood, said that everyone should therefore wash their hands before a meal. That was not necessarily the regnant view of Jesus' time. So when Jesus is saying to the Pharisees, "Hey, you don't need to wash your hands before a meal," he's very much in line with others and not in opposition to Mosaic law. So I just want to make that clear. For those of you who I know woke up this morning and were like, "Gosh, I really want to hear about the Mosaic law and Jesus' take on it." But after this dispute with the Pharisees, Jesus then steps back and makes a more profound point. This dispute gives an opportunity for him to say something, a message for each of us. And so Jesus says, it's not what goes into the mouth from the hands that defiles us. It's not that we haven't washed our hands before we eat that defiles us. It's not some exterior custom or expectation that defiles us. It's what comes out of our hearts that determines who we are as a person. Our bad intentions flow from the hearts, as do our good ones. The point that Jesus is making here is one that is so obvious and so simple and something we know so well, it's almost a cliche. Don't judge people by exterior customs or expectations. Judge them by what flows from their hearts. Jesus mentions this point, something that we all know, because it's so deeply ingrained in human nature, in all of our human natures, to judge things based on exterior customs, on expectations, on exterior appearances. We are hardwired as human beings to make snap judgments. to look at someone's clothes and make a judgment, to hear about someone's career or where they went to school and make a judgment, to make a judgment of the color of someone's skin or the way they conduct themselves in one way or another. We do this because evolutionarily, it's a benefit. Our ancient ancestors wanted to be able to assess a dangerous situation right away. And so to be able to make snap judgments helps you with your situational awareness. But unfortunately, it often leads us to make judgments about others based on exterior things rather than the heart. I think back when I was a student, when I was an undergrad. And when I was an undergrad, one of the things that I would do is when I met another student, I didn't really care where they were from. I didn't really care what they majored in. What I was really interested in is what their extracurricular activities were, because that's how I could judge them. Oh, you're a journalist type. Okay, I know exactly what a journalist type is like. Boom, in a box, gotcha. Oh, you're a drama person. Okay, I know what the drama people are like. Boom. Oh, you play for a sports team. And see, here, it all depended on which sports team. Like the squash team and the hockey team, different boxes. But still in a box. If you were in a final club at Harvard, what their version of fraternities, based on what final club they were in, I knew exactly what kind of person they were, and I would put them in that box. And then after I graduated, I remember running into someone from my class and having this conversation and being like, wow, this person's such an awesome person. Why did I not take the time to know them when I was an undergrad? And the reason was, my snap judgments had put them in a box and prevented me from seeing who they were. And the reality is, what boxes we put people in, our instinct to do this depends on our own personal histories. You do this too. I do it. When I first arrived at the church in Houston, there was a woman there who after a while confessed that she had a negative initial opinion of me when I arrived. And I said, okay, I was wondering what I'd done wrong. She said, in this case, she grew up in New Haven, Connecticut. And she grew up as a townie in New Haven, Connecticut. And if there's one thing that she hated when she was a kid, it's anyone who went to Yale. Hated them. They were all a bunch of snobs. She had no time for them whatsoever. And so when she saw my resume, I went to Yale Divinity School, she's like, I'm going to hate this guy. And she later apologized. She's like, yeah. I think about another woman in the congregation in Houston. When we were talking about racial issues and racial understandings, she does big pushback against stuff that I was saying. So we had a conversation, and one thing that came out of the conversation, she said when she was in her early 20s, she lost out on a job to a person who was a person of color, and from that time onward, she always assumed that that was the reason. And it left a bitter taste in her mouth. And she confessed that she still held that in her heart, and that led to her biases. And so when we think about these words of Jesus, not to judge based on exterior customs or expectations, it's worthwhile to think, what are those things in our own histories that we hold on to? Because we all have them. But there's another dimension to this as well. And that is that when people have certain expectations, when people have certain external expectations, sometimes those affect the way that we act and we respond. So for instance, again, when I was a chaplain at Harvard, I remember this conversation with this one student who was going off after graduating, just about to graduate, and I asked him, I said, well, what are you doing for a job afterwards? And he said, well, I sold out. I was like, okay, what do you mean? Well, he had decided to go be an investment banker in New York. And the perception around students at that time was that those who were good students, those who were moral students, were going to teach for America or something admirable, and the bad students, the sellouts, were going to go be investment bankers on Wall Street. And so this person felt ashamed of the fact and a little guilty about bringing this up. And I remember turning to this person and being like, you making this decision based on your own decisions. This is probably the right decision for you. And you know what? I'm not going to let you have a moral cop-out. I want you to be a good moral banker. I want you to be a good person, and if you do well and you're able to make a lot of money, do something good with that money. There are a lot of super talented people in that industry. You might love it. Don't let other people's expectations of what you're doing determine how you see yourself. But this type of stuff happens all the time. You're a woman. There are expectations in society about what that means. How do those expectations from society affect the way you act and see yourself? As a mother, oh, mothers are supposed to act like this. This person's a bad mother if she does X, Y, or Z. It's not necessarily true. There are expectations about what it means to be a man, a husband, a grandmother. With me, and Christine can certainly echo this, when someone finds out you're a pastor, there are a lot of assumed expectations that come with that. And one of the problems is a pastor comes to a new congregation. This happens every single time. A pastor comes to a new congregation, and someone has in their mind this is what a good pastor is, usually because this is the pastor I grew up with, and this is what I perceive as that. And this new person is not living up to that, and then you just write them off. That's one of the tough things about coming into a new congregation. It's like, just please give me a chance. I know you all have your biases of what a pastor is, and I'm not the same as the previous person, so please give me a chance. These expectations can have negative effects on us. And probably the most important thing to think about here, though, is that Jesus is saying what comes out of our hearts defiles us. What comes out of our hearts is also good. And the tricky part is, the awkward part, is that all of our hearts are mixed. There's a friend of mine in Houston, close friend, who is so much fun to be around. Full of joy. He was one of the best hosts I've ever known. He's someone who could be so generous as well. But you know what else? You'd be sitting at his house at an event, and one of the guests would leave, and the first thing he would do is say nasty things about that guest that just left. And you always had to wonder, well, what is he going to say about me after I leave? And I heard through the grapevine, it wasn't good. He was also someone who, particularly when he had some drinks, didn't like to debate things. He wanted to argue things. Even if he was dead wrong and you're like, actually, I can show on my phone where you're wrong. Nope, you never wrong, never wrong. And he would just get aggressive and really, he actually destroyed relationships over this, didn't care. But that's the reality. People's hearts are mixed. We have good and bad. And the mixed nature of our hearts usually comes from our wounds. This particular man gay man who grew up as a Mormon. Someone who, even though, great career, but one of the things that broke his heart is he was single for years and years and years. And all he wanted was someone to love him. He also struggled a lot with his weight. And he let that tear him apart. The bad parts in his heart came from the holes that were in his heart. And one of the sad truths of all of us, this is a tough thing to wrestle with, is that we've all wrestled with the reality that so often we've been offered conditional love. So you're a kid and you get that great report card, and you feel that much more love every time you get the great report card. And when the report card's not quite so good, the love doesn't feel quite the same. It feels conditional. You hit the home run in that baseball game as a little leaguer, and it feels like you're loved just a little bit more by the people that you care about most. One thing or another, we've all experienced that. That sense that if we're a particular way, we get loved a little bit more. And those experiences can leave holes in our hearts. And then can lead for stuff that comes out that defiles us. Recently I watched this good movie. I'm glad I finally watched it. Project Hail Mary. You guys all seen Project? I bet a lot of you have seen Project Hail Mary. It's a science fiction movie, and that's usually not my thing, but I was like, okay, fine, I'll watch this. And the main character, Ryan Gosling, is one of these people that was this superstar academic who had his career just explode. And that left a big hole in his heart. He was rejected and alienated from everyone who cared about, or that he cared about in his life. And one of the things he found then meaning and purpose, and actually a sense of love, is when he taught middle school science. So he's a middle school science teacher, and through an odd set of circumstances, he's in a position to save the whole universe. You just have to bear with me on this if you haven't seen it. And the key plot element in the movie is that he finally finds love and acceptance and friendship with an alien that he meets in deep space. And he and this alien have to save the world together. The universe, not just the world, the universe together. And what's so sweet is to see how this love of this alien heals some of those broken parts in his heart and gives him a chance to be a hero. And this is what Jesus wants to do with all of us. He wants all of us to be heroes. He wants all of us to be heroes in our own way. What Jesus offers to us is the message of unconditional love of God. When we sit here at confession on Sunday mornings, every Sunday morning, we open ourselves up to name the broken places in our hearts so God can come in and heal them. And that's what Jesus was doing by the shore of Galilee in Gennesaret. He was saying to each and every person that he saw your broken parts and that you're loved. There's that great spiritual, there's a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. And I want you to open yourself up to that love. To really open yourself up to it. Let that love flow into your hearts. Let that love heal those places that need healing. The love that flows from Jesus only has one condition, and that is that you share it with others. May you feel that today.